There are places on this earth that feel ancient, powerful, and utterly indifferent to the fleeting concerns of mankind. Places where the sheer scale of nature makes you feel impossibly small. Zion National Park is one such place. By day, it is a masterpiece of creation. Colossal sandstone cliffs, painted in hues of deep red and cream, rise like the walls of a lost cathedral into a piercing blue sky. The Virgin River, the lifeblood of this canyon, has spent millions of years patiently carving its way through the stone, creating a landscape of breathtaking, almost sacred beauty. Millions of people flock here every year, cameras in hand, to capture a sliver of its majesty, to walk its trails and feel the warm Utah sun on their faces. But when the sun begins to dip below the canyon rim and the long, sharp shadows start to crawl across the valley floor, Zion changes. The vibrant colors soften into deep purples and bruised indigos. The wind, whistling through the narrow slot canyons, begins to sound less like a breeze and more like a whisper. The silence between those whispers becomes heavy, filled with the weight of millennia. It is in these quiet moments that you realize this park is more than just a spectacle of geology. It is a repository of secrets. It is a stage for events so strange, so unsettling, that they defy our modern world of logic and investigation. This place holds stories that are etched not just into its petroglyphs, but into the very stone itself. Tonight, we are not looking at the Zion you see in postcards. We are venturing past the well-trodden paths, into the shadows of its deepest canyons and the echoes of its oldest mysteries. We will explore the chilling case of a civilization that vanished without a trace, delve into legends of impossible creatures that haunt the remote washes, and examine phenomena that seem to defy the very laws of physics. We will confront 6 mysteries of Zion National Park that modern investigation has been unable to solve, and perhaps was never meant to. If you are fascinated by the secrets hidden in our world's most beautiful corners, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for more dark stories. Now let the shadows fall, as we begin with a silence that has lasted for over 700 years. Our first mystery takes us back in time, long before Zion was a national park, before the first pioneers ever laid eyes on its majestic peaks. For over 1,000 years, these canyons were home to a thriving and sophisticated civilization, a people we now call the ancestral Puebloans, or the Anasazi. They were not simple nomads. They were master architects, skilled farmers, and keen astronomers who built a complex society in this vertical world of stone. Their legacy is everywhere here, if you know where to look. It is in the intricate petroglyphs carved into the dark, desert-varnished rock, a silent library of their beliefs and their history. And most impressively, it is in their homes, multi-story dwellings built with breathtaking ingenuity into impossibly high alcoves in the cliff faces, safe from floods below and enemies without. For a millennium, this was their fortress, their sanctuary, their entire universe. They were a people who belonged to the rock. And then, sometime around the year 1300, they were gone. This was not a gradual decline. It was not the slow fading of a culture over generations. The archaeological record suggests something far more sudden, far more unsettling. It was an evacuation, a silent exodus. Across the entire region, dozens of settlements, including those within the Zion Canyons, were abandoned, all around the same time. The mystery is not just that they left, but how they left. Imagine walking into one of these cliff dwellings the day after they vanished. You would find granaries still filled with corn, enough to last through a winter. You would find yucca fibers ready to be woven into sandals, lying next to the loom. You would find pottery and tools laid down in the dust, as if their owners had merely stepped outside for a moment and intended to return. The scene they left behind was not one of a people migrating peacefully. It was one of a people who dropped everything and fled. Mainstream theories point to prolonged drought or conflict with other tribes, and while these factors may have played a part, they fail to explain the sheer totality and haste of the departure. Why leave behind the very food that could sustain you on a long journey? Why abandon the tools necessary to build a new life elsewhere? The evidence does not speak of a planned migration. It whispers of a desperate flight. It feels as if one day, the people of Zion looked up at the sky or down into the canyons and saw something so terrifying that 1,000 years of history and culture were not worth a single moment more. They sealed their homes, gathered their families, and walked out of the canyons and into legend, leaving behind only one thing: a profound and deafening silence. What could possibly drive an entire civilization to abandon their world and vanish from the pages of history? The unsettling silence left by the Anasazi is a mystery of the past, a cold case written in dust and stone. But some believe that whatever they may have fled from never truly left the canyons. Our second mystery takes us from the open cliff dwellings to the tight, claustrophobic confines of a place few tourists ever see: a remote, rugged tributary canyon known as Crawford Wash. This is not the Zion of manicured trails and shuttle buses. This is the park in its raw, untamed state. Here, the canyon walls press in close, the brush is thick with thorns, and you can walk for days without seeing another soul. It is a place where you feel the isolation, and where local legend says you are never truly alone. For generations, whispers have circulated among the communities bordering the park, stories that are rarely shared with outsiders. They speak of things that move in the twilight, things that are neither human nor animal. The tales are often fragmented, spoken in hushed tones, but they share a common, terrifying thread: a tall, gaunt, bipedal creature that moves with impossible speed and agility. Some who are versed in the region's older folklore give it a name that inspires a unique and primal fear: the Skinwalker. But whatever you call it, the descriptions are chillingly consistent. It is a thing of long limbs and pale skin, something that can scramble up sheer cliff faces as easily as an insect, its form silhouetted for a fleeting moment against the dying light before it disappears. These stories might be dismissed as campfire tales, were it not for the accounts from credible witnesses. One of the most compelling comes from a retired park ranger who spoke on the condition of anonymity. Back in the late 1980s, he was doing a final patrol near Crawford Wash as dusk settled. From a ridge, he scanned the opposite canyon wall with his binoculars. That is when he saw it. It was not a deer, or a bighorn sheep, or a human climber. It was a tall, skeletal figure, moving at an impossible pace straight up a vertical rock face. He said it did not seem to be climbing so much as flowing, its limbs extending to unnatural lengths to find purchase where none should exist. He watched frozen for perhaps 10 seconds before it crested the rim and vanished. He never reported it officially for fear of ridicule, but the image, he said, was burned into his memory. Skeptics will rightly point out the complete lack of physical evidence. There are no bodies, no bones, no clear photographs. But what makes the legend endure are the strange traces that are found. Hikers occasionally report finding a single line of tracks, vaguely humanoid but oddly spaced, that will abruptly stop in the middle of a sandy wash, with no rock or ledge to explain the disappearance. It is as if whatever made them simply ceased to exist in that spot. While science can offer no proof, the stories persist, a chilling reminder that in the deepest, most isolated corners of Zion, there may be things lurking in the shadows that defy all our modern investigation. From the dark confines of the washes, we now turn our gaze upward to one of Zion's most iconic and imposing landmarks. Standing nearly 8,000 feet tall, the monolith known as the Sentinel acts as a silent, stone guardian over the southern entrance of the main canyon. For most of the day, it is simply a magnificent mountain, a testament to the power of geological uplift and erosion. But as the day ends and the light begins to fail, the Sentinel becomes the stage for one of the park's most baffling and ethereal mysteries. It is a phenomenon known as the Sentinel's Phantom. For decades, visitors, photographers, and park staff have reported seeing the same inexplicable sight. As the setting sun casts its final, long rays across the valley, a colossal shadow emerges on the eastern face of the mountain. But this is no ordinary shadow from a passing cloud or an opposing peak. This shadow is distinctly, unnervingly humanoid. Witnesses describe it as a giant figure, hundreds of feet tall, that appears to move with a slow, deliberate purpose. It does not just drift, it strides. Sometimes it lingers in one spot, as if surveying the canyon below, before gliding across the sheer rock face and disappearing as the last trace of sunlight vanishes. It is a fleeting, silent, and deeply awe-inspiring event. Naturally, the most common explanation is that it is a complex optical illusion, a trick of the light known as a shadow person, formed when the low-angle sun interacts with the intricate ridges and features of the mountain. And on any given evening, this would be a perfectly logical conclusion. But the phantom does not follow any logical pattern. It does not appear on every clear sunset. Its shape and its movements are reported differently by different groups on different days. Geologists and photographers have tried for years to map the specific conditions needed to replicate the effect, but have failed. The shadow, it seems, appears only when it chooses to. The most unsettling account comes from a group of landscape photographers in the early 2000s. They had set up multiple high-definition cameras to capture a time lapse of the sunset against the Sentinel. As the golden hour arrived, they all saw it. The massive, dark figure emerged and moved slowly across the cliff. They watched in stunned silence, pointing it out to one another, confirming they were all seeing the same thing. They were ecstatic, believing they had finally captured definitive proof of the legend. But when they later reviewed their footage, there was nothing there. The time-lapse showed only the steady, predictable creep of natural shadows down the mountain face. The phantom, so vivid and undeniable to their own eyes, was completely invisible to the camera's lens. What is this phantom, seen only by the human eye? Is it a geological ghost, an echo of some ancient being replaying its final moments? Or is it a trick of our own minds, a shape our brains create in the face of such overwhelming scale and beauty? Whatever it is, the Sentinel is keeping it secret. Zion is a desert, but it is a desert of surprising life, much of which is thanks to a unique geological feature. The porous Navajo sandstone that forms the Great Cliffs acts like a giant sponge, absorbing rainwater and allowing it to slowly percolate downwards. Where it meets a layer of impenetrable rock, the water seeps out the side of the cliff face, creating lush vertical gardens. These life-giving places are known as weeping walls or hanging gardens, serene oases of maidenhair ferns, columbines, and mosses that cling to the wet rock. They are beautiful, tranquil spots where the gentle, rhythmic dripping of water is the only sound. But there is one such wall, hidden deep within an unnamed slot canyon, that is not on any park map, and the sounds heard there are anything but tranquil. This location is known only to a small circle of extreme canyoneers and explorers, a place that requires days of trekking and technical rappelling to reach. Those who have claimed to find it speak of it in hushed, uneasy tones. As you venture deeper into this narrow, perpetually shadowed canyon, you begin to hear it. At first, it sounds normal, like the characteristic echo of water dripping in a cave. But as you get closer to the weeping wall, another sound begins to distinguish itself from the patter of the water. It is a sound that is both unmistakable and utterly impossible. It is the sound of weeping. It is not the howling of the wind or the trickling of a stream. Witnesses are adamant. It is the distinct human cadence of quiet, inconsolable sobbing. A sound of pure, unending grief that seems to have no specific source. It does not echo off the canyon walls like a normal sound would. Instead, it feels as if it is emanating from inside your own head, or worse, from within the ancient stone of the earth itself. Explorers have searched with sensitive audio equipment, trying to pinpoint a source, an acoustic anomaly, anything, but they find nothing. The sound is simply there, a sorrowful stain on the silence of the canyon. The psychological toll on those who experience it is profound. These are not easily frightened people. They are hardened adventurers accustomed to danger and isolation. Yet they report being overcome by a sudden and overwhelming wave of inexplicable sadness. a feeling of deep despair that mirrors the sound they are hearing. They are gripped by a primal, overwhelming urge to flee, to get away from the sound and the soul-crushing emotion it carries with it. Is it merely auditory pareidolia, the brain's tendency to find patterns in random noise, amplified by the suggestive power of a dark and lonely place? Or have the rocks of this hidden canyon somehow absorbed a terrible tragedy from the past, and its sorrowful echo is now trapped there for all time, forever weeping in the dark? For our fifth mystery, we step out of the realm of folklore and disembodied sounds, and into the cold, hard reality of a police file. The stories we have explored so far could be dismissed as tricks of the mind or legends passed down through generations. But this story is different. It is a documented, investigated, and utterly unsolved case of three people who walked into Zion National Park and never walked out. It is the story of the DeMille trio. In the autumn of 1974, John DeMille, his wife, and his brother drove to Zion for what was supposed to be a challenging but manageable multi-day hike. They were not novices. They were experienced outdoors people, well equipped with the proper gear, maps, and supplies. They knew the terrain, they respected the park's dangers, and they had filed their hiking plan with the Park Service as required. When they failed to check out at their scheduled time, rangers were not immediately concerned. Delays are common in the backcountry. But after another day passed with no word, the alarm was raised, and one of the largest search and rescue operations in Zion's history was launched. For weeks, the canyons and plateaus echoed with the sound of helicopter rotors. Expert trackers, some of whom could follow the trail of a mouse over solid rock, were brought in. Hundreds of volunteers on foot grid searched the vast area where the trio was believed to have been hiking. They searched the trails, the riverbanks, the high ledges, and the deep, shadowy slot canyons. And they found absolutely nothing, not a single boot print that could be definitively identified as theirs. Not a dropped water bottle, not a stray piece of equipment, not a shred of torn clothing. It was as if three human beings, with all their gear, had simply been plucked from the face of the earth. The search was eventually, reluctantly called off. No trace of the DeMille trio has ever been found. A vehicle left at a trailhead and a missing party is a tragically common story in national parks. But what elevates this case into the realm of the truly unsettling was the final discovery made inside their locked car. On the front seat lay a hiking journal. The first several entries were neat and tidy, detailing their drive, their enthusiasm for the trip, the beauty of the park. But the final entry was starkly different. It was a short, hurried scrawl, written with a hand that was clearly shaking, as if penned in a moment of pure terror. It was a single cryptic phrase of 6 words. It read, "Don't look into their eyes." Who were they? What did the DeMilles see out there in the canyons? That frantic, terrified warning, left behind just before they vanished forever, transforms this from a missing persons case into a chilling horror story, one whose final chapter will likely never be written. Our final mystery is perhaps the most personal and psychologically disturbing of them all. It does not involve a monster or a ghost in the traditional sense. The source of the terror is, in some ways, you. To find it, we must travel to a part of the park famous for its acoustics, the aptly named Echo Canyon. In many parts of this canyon, the rock walls are shaped in such a way that sound travels for incredible distances. A shout can be returned to you as a clear echo seconds later. A normal speaking voice can be heard from a quarter-mile away. It is a natural marvel of sound engineering. But there is one particular bend in the canyon, a short, unremarkable-looking stretch of stone, known unofficially to a few as the Whispering Gallery. And here, the acoustics do something else, something deeply unsettling. The phenomenon only seems to occur when a person is standing there completely alone, in total silence. After a few moments, as their ears adjust to the quiet, they begin to hear it. Faint whispers, seeming to ride on the gentle breeze that snakes through the canyon. At first, they are indistinct, like the rustling of leaves or the murmur of a distant crowd. But as you listen closer, the whispers become words, And this is the truly chilling part. The whispers are not random. They are intimate. They are your own deepest, most private fears and anxieties, spoken back to you in a soft, insidious voice. The stories are unnervingly similar. A hiker, secretly terrified of the precarious heights they have just scaled, will hear a clear whisper in their ear. One little slip is all it takes. A young professional, plagued by imposter syndrome, will hear the words, "They are all going to find out you are a fraud." A person struggling with a past mistake might hear the devastating sentence, "It was your fault." The whispers are never loud. They are always personal, precise, and perfectly tailored to inflict the maximum amount of psychological distress. The effect is immediate and powerful, often causing visitors to flee the area in a state of near panic, feeling as though the canyon itself has peered into their soul and weaponized their own thoughts against them. How is this possible? Is it the ultimate form of auditory pareidolia, where the suggestible human mind, primed by an eerie location, takes the random noise of the wind and shapes it into the words it fears the most? Or is this place something more, a psychic echo chamber, a malevolent intelligence that resides in the rock, feeding on the negative emotions of those who pass through? We may never know. But the Whispering Gallery of Echo Canyon serves as a terrifying final mystery, a place that suggests the most frightening things in Zion are not the creatures or spirits that might be lurking in the dark, but the ones we bring with us, locked away in the silence of our own minds. The towering cliffs of Zion National Park keep their secrets well. We have journeyed from a civilization that vanished into the historical record to creatures of legend that defy biology. We have witnessed a phantom giant that eludes the camera's eye and heard echoes of a sorrow that seems impossibly trapped in stone. We have touched upon the cold, factual horror of 3 people who disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only a cryptic warning. And finally, we stood in a place that seems to know our deepest fears and whispers them back to us on the wind. Each mystery on its own is a chilling and inexplicable tale. But when viewed together, they paint a portrait of a place that is far more than just a national park. Zion is a place of profound duality. It is a cathedral of stone that inspires awe and wonder, a testament to the slow, beautiful, and understandable forces of nature. And yet, in its shadows and its silence, it is a place that seems to operate by a different set of rules. It is a landscape that feels ancient, alive, and at times deeply unnervingly aware. The forces at play here seem to be beyond the reach of our cameras, our audio recorders, and our modern methods of investigation. The mysteries of Zion are not problems to be solved. They are fundamental conditions of the place itself. So, what do you think is hiding in the deep canyons of Zion? Are these 6 mysteries mere tricks of the light and mind, a collection of folklore illusions, and unfortunate tragedies amplified by the park's imposing atmosphere? Or are they echoes of something much older, stranger, and beyond our comprehension, something the Anasazi may have understood all too well? Leave your thoughts and theories in the comments below. We want to know what you believe is the truth behind these unsettling events. And if you have a local legend from your area you would like to see covered, let us know. Until next time, stay curious.